Good morning, fifth graders. This is Miss Johnson here to do your interactive read aloud for today. This is one of my favorite nonfiction books. I love this book, and it's titled When the Wolves Return, Restoring Nature's Balance in Yellowstone. It's written by Dorothy Henshaw Patent. As I read today, boys and girls, I want you to try to think about this is a nonfiction book. I want you to think about how it's a nonfiction book because it's going to give us information about Yellowstone Park and something that had happened there a long time ago. And I also want you to be thinking about text structure and the way that the author chose to build this text in order to get the information across in the best way. One of the reasons this is my favorite book is because it's about Yellowstone, and we learn about national parks in our social studies unit this year. And so I hope you enjoy this book. Yellowstone is a very special place. Imagine a land where giant geysers blow jets upstream hundreds of feet into the chilly evening air, and large herds of elk graze along the river shore. That was what Yellowstone was like in the 1800s, a magical region tucked into the northwestern corner of Wyoming, a place where nature had been allowed to take its course with little human interference. More than 100 years ago, America turned Yellowstone into the world's first national park. Yellowstone contains more natural geologic wonders than any other place on Earth. Steaming mud pots, boiling hot pools, jetting geysers, and a fabulous, colorful canyon with stunning waterfalls. The government realized what a treasure the area was, and in 1872, the United States Congress declared it to be a national park. For many years, the most important thing was that people enjoy the park. The original purpose for the park was to preserve its geologic wonders for visitors. The plants and animals were merely a bonus. People were even allowed to hunt the wildlife and cut down the trees. In the early days, the effects of these activities were slight, since a few people made the long, hard trip to reach the park. But as transportation improved and more people came, their impact grew. Because wolves fed on elk and deer that people liked, hunters were paid to kill the wolves. And by 1926, all the wolves in Yellowstone Park were gone. In the early years, the park officials didn't understand that predators like wolves are just as important in nature as plant eaters like elk. They thought killing predators would help the elk and other big game animals. Safe from wolves, elk became more numerous as the years passed. When the weather was mild, many elk calves survived and the population swelled, but during severe winters, the population would crash as thousands starved. To control the elk, park rangers trapped many of them and sent them to other parks and preserves. Rangers also had to shoot and kill them by the hundreds to keep their numbers down. So I'm going to stop right there and think about that when they got rid of the wolves, because people liked looking, like over here it says people liked looking at the elk and deer, the park rangers thought that they should kill the wolves, so they killed them. And then the wolves who used to eat the elk, when the wolves were gone, the elk began to get overpopulated and there were too many elk in the area, in the park. Coyotes also increased in number, taking over the land and food that other small predators needed to survive. So without the wolves at the top of the food chain, coyotes became Yellowstone's main top predator. Coyotes feed on everything from elk calves to insects, but mostly on small rodents like ground squirrels. So many coyotes made it hard for other small predators like fox and badgers to thrive. So I'm going to stop right there, and I want you to think about how removing one animal from the food chain in this ecosystem, I want you to think about all the things that had started to change, that had been affected by the wolves being taken out of this food chain. And I want you to think about if that was a good choice or not a good choice. The coyotes fed on newborn pronghorn, so every year fewer pronghorn fawns survived. Even the trees and shrubs in the park suffered because the wolves were gone. Because so many elk were eating the young shoots and bark, few young aspen trees, cottonwood trees, and willow shrubs grew to replace the old ones that died. Before long, the songbirds that lived and nested in these trees and bushes became rare. The beavers that need aspens, cottonwoods, and willows also began to disappear. Some scientists thought forest fires might fix Yellowstone, but they were wrong. In 1988, weather conditions created a situation perfect for wildfire in the park. Almost 1 million acres burned. Scientists expected the new shoots that would grow from roots of burned willows and aspens would provide plenty of healthy new bushes and trees, but the elk ate most of them. Scientists finally decided that returning the wolf might help solve the park's problems. For thousands of years, wolves lived in Yellowstone along with other animals. Many of the problems in the park began soon after the wolves were eliminated. After studying the problems, scientists predicted that returning wolves could control the number of coyotes and elk. This, scientists believe, would allow other living things like aspens and ground squirrels to thrive once more. So I'm going to stop, and I want you to think about how all the things that happened when they removed the wolves, and now the scientists realized that that caused a problem, and it made the ecosystem not balanced. So I want you to pause and think about all the ways that it made it not balanced. And I want you to think about if adding the wolves back, if you think it's going to fix the problem. Many people fought the idea of bringing the wolves back, but they lost the battle. When the wolves were brought back, they thrived and multiplied. Year by year, the number of wolves in Yellowstone grew. When a pack became too big, it broke into smaller packs that slowly filled the habitat in the vast park. Now about 12 wolf packs filled the habitat in filled the park. The total wolf population varies, but they are usually around 150 wolves. Wolves chased and killed the coyotes until half of them were gone. So wolves were becoming the top of the food chain again. With fewer coyotes hunting them, pronghorn and other prey animals survive more easily. Grizzly bears chase wolves from their kills, helping themselves to quality food. Wolves on the hunt keep the elk on the move, spreading out their feeding. Young aspens, cottonwoods, and willows can grow again, and the animals that need them are also coming back. Returning the wolf is helping to make Yellowstone whole again. And so there's more facts on the sides of these pages that I didn't read all of those, but you could borrow this book. There's more facts that talk about how removing the wolves from Yellowstone they thought was going to be a good idea, but they realized that it caused a problem. And then when they returned the wolves, they could see that they needed the wolves to balance the ecosystem. Which is cool because this book ties into one of our units in science too. We'll learn about ecosystems and we'll talk about how ecosystems can be changed if humans interact with them, both in positive and negative ways. So I hope that you enjoyed this book, When the Wolves Returned. And I also hope that you're picking nonfiction books that interest you. I particularly like this book because I'm interested in national parks and how human interaction can impact them. So I hope you enjoyed it too. And you can borrow this book if you want to read it again or read some more of the facts about how this ecosystem was impacted. So thanks for listening and happy reading.